Hey guys, it is time for an exciting, brand new, year-long reading challenge, and it is all Romantasy. Hey guys, if you are new here, welcome to The Book Path. I'm Nicole, and if this isn't your first rodeo, thanks for sticking around. So there's a brand new reading challenge. Cassidy over from Covers with Cass has come up with a year-long Romantasy reading challenge, kind of similar to the Reddit Fantasy Bingo Challenge, but just everything Romantasy. So you know, I have to dive into this one because majority of what I own is Romantasy. So let's get into just a few of the nitty-gritty rules for this challenge. Basically, this challenge is, it runs from the beginning of November 1st, 2025, so we're already in it, up until October 31st of 2026. You can do like a bingo board, you can do a line to, just like a bingo board, you can do, the horizontal line, the diagonal line, whichever you want to do, or you can go for a full blacked out card. Obviously, we're going to try for the full blacked out card, similar to what we do for the Reddit Fantasy Bingo Challenge. The tricks is for this, you can only use an author one time throughout the entirety of the card. This is just to get you to introduce yourself to new authors, and there is a variety to choose from. So it shouldn't be hard to find an author because, like I said, many. You can also swap out one square for a freebie square. Did we do this? No, we did not. Might this change as the year goes on? Possibly. Stay tuned for that. We don't know. But right now, I feel pretty decent. I feel pretty good. There is also a easy mode or the regular mode, and there is hard mode. So first round, first time, we're gonna, go hard or go home. So we are doing hard mode for all of these. I'm not going to get too much into what each book's about. I have pretty much covered a lot of these books in previous book hauls. So I'm not going to do that during this one. Plus we would be here all day doing that. So I'm going to save you that one. But I am going to show you kind of what I'm reading and for what the prompt is. The other rule that I was trying to set for myself is that we were going to try to do as many physical books that I own from my shelves to kind of clear up some space as well and move some of the stuff from our very, very full T.B.R. shelves over to a lot of these kind of empty-ish spaces that you can see behind me because we still have a little bit of empty space. We've been reading a lot of ebooks as of late. So first up for row one, we have a new release published in the year you read it. Basically, this means that if I read it in 2025, it has to be a book from 2025. If I read from 2026, it has to be a book in 2026. The hard mode for this is that the book must be by a debut author. Obviously, there are a lot of fantastic books coming out in 2026, but I kind of want to focus, like I said, on my current TBR shelves. So I'm going to try to get this done within or by the end of this year. So we chose a 2025 book, Immortal Consequences by Ivy Marie. I am going with this one as the debut author because when I looked this author up on Goodreads, it only had Immortal Consequences and then the sequel that is yet to be released for this listed as her works. So we are going to go with this one, debut author, new release, 2025. Got to get this done before 2025 is over. So next up we have Hidden Identity. Obviously, we know what a hidden identity is, or hopefully we know. Hard mode for this is that the hidden identity can't be a royal. We can't have a prince or princess or king or queen or any kind of royalty hiding their identity. So in the announcement video for this, there was a recommendation, and I'm going to steal that recommendation because I own it, and that is An Ember in the Ashes by Sabaa Tahir. I hope that's how I'm pronouncing it is correct. I've had this on my shelves for a bit. I've heard wonderful things about this series. So we're going to go ahead and use this as our opportunity to see if this is a series for us. Normally, I'm not one on a lot of like desert settings, for fantasies. So we'll see how it goes. But like I said, heard really good things about it. So we're going to go with Hidden Identity because she is not a royal. She is just a rebel infiltrating the regime, I guess. So she's hiding her rebel identity. Next up, we have Take Down the System, which is a plot that revolves around rebellions or revolutions. The hard mode for this is that it must be a dystopian kind of setting. And once again, I am stealing the rec that she used because I have it. Heard great things about this book, so we're gonna go ahead and do it. And that is The Bone Season by Samantha Shannon. I have heard really good things about this as well, and it fits the plot and I own it. So, I mean, need I say more? Next up, we have a BIPOC author, and for the hard mode is that there must be flowers on the cover. So, a little bit tricky with the flowers on the cover, you're kind of throwing me, but I did have a book that I had been saving, and I guess now I know why. We are going with Forest of a Thousand Lanterns, and you can see there are little green flowers all over the cover. This is written by Julie C. Dow. I read... where is it? Oh, right here. Song of the Crimson Flower, which is basically in this world, but this is kind of like a prequel to that book. And I really liked the writing. I really liked the storyline and the emotion that was put into the story. It gave me, like, Song of the Crimson Flower gave me little elements of, like, Oz, like the Wicked Witch of the West and everything, and just kind of like, because they use like poppies, I think. So it was very much giving me some of the vibes, but like of an Asian version with the poppies that they grew there for the opium. So I just think it's going to be an interesting read. Like I said, I already like the writing style, but haven't read this yet. So yeah, so we're going to go ahead and choose this one. Plus, Julie C. Dow is a Vietnamese American, making her a BIPOC author. So it definitely counts. So next up, and the last square for row 1, is a story that is told in first person, and hard mode is it has to be a new to you author. I have a perfect one I've been waiting to get for. I loved the cover of this when I picked it up, and I've never read from this author before, and that is Blood Beneath the Snow. And yes, this is the actual hardcover. This is not a dust jacket or anything for this book. And it just sounds really good. It is told, I didn't read it, but I skimmed through some of the pages, and it is told in first person. So first person, new to me author, fantasy world, in the snow, possibly enemies to lovers. We shall see. Now this brings us to row 2, and our first square for this is Blank of Blank. This is a title that is exactly this pattern. It cannot have extra words. It must be blank of blank. So whatever word, middle word of, third word, whatever it is. So the examples they gave were Servant of Earth and Shield of Sparrows. The hard mode is that it has to be not fae. And so we are going to go with one of their examples and go with Shield of Sparrows by Devney Perry. So I have been waiting to get to this. I really wanted to read it. I've heard really good things about it, and it's been sitting on my shelf for longer than it should be. So we're going to go ahead and choose this one for that. Next up, we have Indie to Trad Pipeline. This is basically a book or series that was indie published, but was picked up by a traditional publisher. Hard mode is that it has to be a sequel in the series. And when she gave a few of the examples, I was like, guess what? I'm due to read one of the sequels in that series. And of course, we are talking about The Everqueen by L.J. Andrews. I read The Everking and I loved it, and sadly I had some other things that I needed to get to read, so I couldn't finish out this series, but I loved the first book in this series and I am so excited to get back to this. I loved the ships and how almost sentient they felt. The magical system was great. The spice and the banter was fantastic, and I always love me a good pirate, you know, kind of world, because you don't see too many of those. We see a lot of fae, a lot of royals. Need more pirates. So next up, we have Rep Matters, a book that has some sort of representation, and in hard mode, it has to be own voices for that rep, which basically means that the author has characteristics of whichever, whatever they are talking about. So it can be like OCD, ADHD, autism, Parkinson's, you know, all sorts of different varieties of illnesses, disabilities, and such. I am going with one of the other recommendations that she gave, and that is Phantasma by Kaylee Smith. been wanting to get to this. I own the first 2 books. I haven't got to it again. If you've been watching my videos, you know I've been wanting to get to this. So guess what? We're getting to it. Cassidy basically recommended it, saying that this had OCD representation, and so I'm gonna go with that. I feel that everybody to some degree has some form of OCD. We all have that one thing, whether it's you want to check and make sure all the doors are locked before bed like 3 different times, or you want to, you know, check, make sure the oven's off. You got to make sure that you check for your phone, your wallet, and your keys before you go, and that you've got to double check the doors. You lock it like 3 times. I don't know, maybe that's just me. It could be just me. But yes, so I felt, yeah, we're gonna go with this one. Next up, we get to start a new series, which as much as I don't want to do because I have so many series I need to finish, I'm also excited for. But the hard mode is that this author needs to write for multiple genres. And yeah, that was gonna be a little bit more tricky because a lot of some of the authors that I wanted to use, I was using for other things, and you can't repeat an author, but I did find one. And that is Dark Witch, which is the first book in the Cousins O'Dwyer series, which is written by Nora Roberts. And I know Nora Roberts has not only written other fantasies or other fantasy romances, she has written contemporary romances. She has written, I've heard that she wrote like some criminal proceeding type stuff too. So she has different genres that she has published in. So we are going to go with this one. This one is kind of an Irish discovery of magical powers trilogy. It seems really interesting. So, and I own the whole series, so I might as well get started with it. Next up, we have the urban setting. For hard mode, it has to be a secondary world and not our world. So basically, it can't have like the names of like cities and countries and states and things that we have. It can be a contemporary city, it could be a steampunk city, it could be, you know, another type of city, like a fae city, it could be something like that, but just not something that exists in the world that we know it. Once again, given lovely, lovely opportunities to finish off some series as well, because we are going with City of Mirth and Malice by Alexis El Menard. This is the sequel to the House of Bane and Blood, and I loved House of Bane and Blood. I found a wonderful new book boyfriend in House of Bane and Blood. Highly, highly recommend it. It has a little bit of steampunk and magic vibes with just a very like almost Peaky Blinders feel to the world that it is. So very, very much loved it. So we're gonna go with this one, and then we'll finish out the duology, and I'm excited for it because like I said, I get to go and see my book boyfriend again. That basically brings us to row number 3. First book up in this is Ghost and Ghouls. For hard mode, one of the love interests needs to be a ghost or ghoul. And Cassidy basically said that the ghoul is going to be defined as like basically a demon. It can't be a monster. It can't be a vampire. It can't be a werewolf. Looking with that in mind, I decided to go with yet again another book that I've been waiting to read, and that is For Whom the Bell Tolls by J.C. Lynn, or Jaccia Lynn. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right, so I do apologize. But this book basically takes place in the afterlife, so ghosts, and it talks about how her love interest might be Belle, a demon general. So we got them both covered, and I haven't seen too much on this book. I've seen a few things, and everything that I've seen so far has been good, so I am excited. Next up, we have a voice inside your head, which basically means that you are somehow able to communicate telepathically. And the hard mode is that you can't, this ability to telepathically communicate can't be with like an animal companion. So I am going to tackle a book that I have been putting off because I know that the next book in this series isn't coming out for like another year. And there was a lot of hype when it came out, and I just kind of wanted to avoid it because of that. I didn't want to get, persuaded by anything. So now is the time to pick it out because they do telepathically communicate not only with their dragons, but with one another. So of course we are going with Onyx Storm by Rebecca Yarros. This is the third book in the Fourth Wing series. A lot of people have already read it. Obviously, if you're in the book community, you know the raving of everybody about these books. So I'm going to be tackling this one finally, and then I won't have as long as other people to wait. This might be a later one that I get to kind of just squeeze out how much I don't have to wait for the next book, because obviously, you know, when we get to the end of this one, we're going to be foaming at the mouth for whatever comes next. So after that, we have a friend rec. Basically any friend recommendation. However, hard mode means that you had to have seen this book on Cassidy's channel or as a recommendation. So I'm gonna use Cassidy as my friend rec, and I went to a lot of her videos, watched some videos, and from her more than 20 of her fave Romantasy recommendations video, I am stealing from my friend rec, thank you Cass, Quicksilver by Callie Hart. Once again, another book that everybody is loving and just going crazy over, and I have yet to read it. So own it, time for me to crack it open, time for me to explore, because I have heard that Kingfisher, I think is his name, is probably going to end up on my book boyfriend list. So we shall see. So next up we have Book Talk Hype. I don't usually go on TikTok, but I know that it always makes its way over to Instagram, so I'm kind of using Instagram as my book talk. And basically just a book that's being hyped up over on social media. Hard mode is that at the time you read it, it is still an indie book. So this is obviously a book that I'm going to want to get to quicker, as well as the 2025 book that I need to read. Now, I didn't have any physical books that were indie still. So this was a little bit hard. So I went and I watched some of the recs. And I'm stealing another rec. You know what? I'm going to steal a lot of recs, because if they're good recs and they're stuff I've been wanting to read anyway, why not? However, this is going to be my only ebook in this video, as far as I know. Like I said, if you've watched my Reddit video for the fantasy bingo, you know some stuff gets shifted around as the year goes on. I don't know if that'll happen. So like I said, stay tuned. But as of right now, this is the only ebook that we are doing. And that is King of Flesh and Bone by Liv Zander. This is book 1 in the Pale Court duet. And as far as I know, at the time that I'm filming this, it is still an indie book, because I checked last night. So hopefully for at least like the next month or so, it's still indie, but it's counting as of this video. We shall see. But it just seems to be maybe enemies to lovers, different world. Not too sure about this. I really don't know much about this book, but I know it's recommended. It fits the prompt. It was on KU. We're using it. So that brings us to our last square for row 3, and that is a forbidden romance, but hard mode means it cannot be the enemies to lovers trope. And for that, I am choosing The Poison Season by Mara Rutherford. Basically in this one, it sounds like the main female character has to kind of keep quiet and solitude in a forest, and she comes across a young outsider who she probably should have gotten rid of, and she doesn't, and so they kind of have to be a secret from the world in which she lived. So not an enemies to lovers, but it is kind of forbidden because he is an outsider. So this brings us to row 4, which we have Trials. For hard mode, it has to be within an academic setting. So for this one, I am choosing On Wings of Blood by Briar Boleyn. I don't know much about this because I just recently got this one. It sounded good, and basically it sounds like there is she's a half fae at a school of pureblood vampires, and she has to learn to like ride a dragon as part of like her graduation or something. And that it says here, Bloodwing isn't just a school, it's a battlefield. You fight for power, and then it says between deadly competitions. So I'm going to count the competitions as trials. So we're going to go with it. It's an academic setting. It's a school. We're going to go with that one. Next up, we have a book with 2 or more love interests for hard mode. It cannot be a love triangle, which is fantastic because this hits right up my alley with why choose and reverse harems, which let's go. And I have the perfect book that has been waiting on my shelf, and that is Psycho Shifters by Jasmine Mass. I'm going to give this a try because I know if you watched my recent October wrap-up video, I was not the hugest fan of Blood of Hercules. But maybe that was just that particular story. We're gonna go with this one. I do have a book buddy who she loved this one and started like just diving into the series. So I'm hoping that because our reading tastes are kind of similar, that I'm gonna go ahead and love this one too. And this is a why choose reverse harem with various shifters. So next up, we have a book with a single POV. Hard mode is it had to be published 5 or more years ago. So we had to do some counting in this one. And for this one, it's okay because I have a couple of these books that I need to get to by this author. I have been loving everything this author's written. And so I'm curious to see how this goes. We are choosing Warrior of the Wild by Trisha Levenseller. I loved Daughter of the Pirate King. I still need to finish that series, as well as The Shadows Between Us. So I wanted to go ahead and use this one. And it is written first POV, and it was published in 2019. So definitely 5 years or more since we are now in 2025 going into 2026. So we're gonna go with this one, and it sounds like it's single POV because it's her kind of fight of survival in the woods where I think she has to go and fight off like a god that's like cursed her or something. I'm not too sure, but it sounded good. We're going with it. The cover gave me like some Nordic Viking vibes, so we're going with it. Next up, we have a book with a court setting. Hard mode is that it has to have an animal on the cover. Now this one, I stretched a bit. It's not exactly an animal as far as fuzzy, furry creatures. I decided to go with just a living creature on the cover. And so I decided to go with What Did You Do by Janine O'Reilly. This is book 2 in the Infatuated Fae series. And of course it has butterflies on it. So I'm gonna go with that because I don't really have a lot of books that have animals on the cover that are a court setting. They're usually more in the wilderness, or they have other things to go with. They're not centrally focused on court intrigues and politics, whereas book 2 seems to be taking place in the Seelie court. So she does have to go through the courts and the rules of the Fae Kingdom. And the first book was pretty good, so left off on a cliffhanger. Curious to see where it goes. So next up, we have A Whole New World. Main character is transported somewhere new, aka a portal fantasy, and it has to be a retelling or a reimagining. And so for that, I was excited because I have had this on my shelves for a long time. I've heard really good things about this one. And so we are choosing Spinning Silver by Naomi Novik. This was on the list on Goodreads for Portal Fantasies, and it is a retelling. I think it has like Rumpelstiltskin retellings plus like a few other fairy tale retellings mixed in here, so there's multiple. So we're going with this one. That brings us to row number 5, our final row. And so first up, we have Reluctant Allies to Lovers. Hard mode is that it has to be a marriage of convenience. And so for this one, we are going with The Serpent and the Wolf by Rebecca Robinson. Don't know a lot about this. Like I said, a lot of these I have, and they've been sitting on my shelf for a while, so we got to get to them. But I do know that this is kind of like there's a fantasy world at war, and the brother kind of sells his sister's hand in marriage to the enemy, but they decide he offers her through their marriage, you know, a way out. So it is a marriage of convenience because there's going to be a perk of her getting out, as well as if she works with him to help him get what he needs. So convenience. So we're gonna go ahead and go with this one. Next up, we have a one-word title, and for hard mode, it had to be Gothic, and this is perfect because I've been wanting to read this one. Highly acclaimed Anathema by Carrie Lake. I've heard a lot of really good things about it. I am not huge on Gothic. I've had a few that I've really liked, but I have heard incredible things about this, and when I read the blurb, it sounded right up my alley, and it had really pretty images, so I decided to go ahead and take a chance on this one because, like I said, I've been hearing really, really good things about this one. So next up, we have a shifter romance, and the hard mode is that it can't be a wolf shifter. So obviously I could have used psycho shifters for this one, but I did have another book series that had some very interesting shifters. So we're gonna go ahead and read book 2 in the series, and that is Lady of Light and Shadows by C.L. Wilson. This is the Terran's Soul book 2, and the Terrans in this are like giant cats. And the king can like transform into one of these giant cats. Not everybody can do it, but the king can. And he's kind of found his fated mate, and there is some like darkness afoot, and so they need to kind of save both their realms. But yes, he is a giant kitty cat shifter. So yeah, we're gonna go with this one. Next up, we have a book that is a weapon on the cover, and hard mode is that the main character has to be powerless in this scenario. So there are books like Powerless that you could get. I don't own that one yet, but I did have some other recs for it, and I'm going with one of them, which is Nightweaver by R.M. Gray. I know that the main female character in this she has no power. She's just a really smart human girl that's trying to like outwit, but the love interest, I think he has powers, but she does not. And for our last book, it is a chunky series read, basically a series that has 4 or more books. You can read any book in the series. Hard mode for this is that the world or series has another series that's interconnected with it. So there are a few series out there. Carissa Broadbent has a bunch of series that are kind of interconnected. I decided to take a step back into one of my favorite worlds where I have read at least 2 series in this world already. And so we're going to go back, and we're going back to The Mortal Instruments for book 2, which is City of Ashes. I did read the first book of the Mortal Instruments series. Was not a huge fan of it. I'm still loving Infernal Devices as my favorite in the Shadowhunter world so far. But I do want to read it because I do love this world so much, and I know that there are several series, and there's even a new series coming out that's going to be the last series kind of in this world. So I really want to kind of tackle this one so I can get to the other ones. So we're going to go ahead and do that. That brings us to a complete bingo board, at least completely planned. Will the plans change throughout the year? Possibly. Will they might not, because like I said, there's a lot of these that I've been looking forward to reading, and now this is just giving me a chance to slate them in where I haven't been able to in other readathons and challenges. So I'm really excited for this. So let me know in the comments if you guys are joining in with this, if there are some books that you had that are differing from the ones that I picked out for different challenges and different ones. Let me know if you're doing easy mode or hard mode, and we'll cheer each other on. So with that being said, I hope you guys are doing well, and I hope that you stay warm, stay healthy, stay hydrated with some nice warmy winter beverages, and take care of yourselves. And I will see you guys in the next one.